Very simple in upgrade. You just need the material needed to upgrade and then you're off to go. Now moving on to the next point that is important. Awakening the skill and awakening the hero to immortal. There is an awakened skill. It's not really an awakened skill, it's just an addition, kinda. For Toko, the deadly blow in the first 2 turns of a battle, it increases the attack and critical by 20%. So to unlock the awakened skill equals an increase in critical only in battle for attack and critical at the beginning of the battle, pretty much the first two turns by 20%. So this increase will help in actually causing more damage and easier landing critical, so that will land and drag with it the pursuit, the follow-up pursuit, and help in ending the battle faster. Now moving on to the next, the Sigil. Okay, so when we're talking about Sigil, Tuku has mainly 4 main Sigils that can be used. One of them is Samurai. Of course, everyone knows Samurai. It actually helps to cause more pursuit and follow-up pursuit by, after launching a basic attack, 25% to actually launch another attack. So one is Samurai. The other is Sin, increases the armor pierce. Sin, pretty much by increasing the armor penetration, will help you in actually being able to cause more damage, etc., etc. Most stigmata is either for increasing the damage or helping the hero cause more damage, or increasing one of the attributes that the hero is using, or giving him an additional attribute, like for instance Inflame, which causes damage also to the enemy. So the first two is going to be Samurai, and the second one is going to be Sin. The third one in selection is going to be Inflame, and the fourth one is going to be Berserk. Now, based on Inflame and Berserk suck badly when it comes to Tuku, and they're not a good selection at all, because it lowers her pursuit and follow-up pursuit, which is the continuous attack slashing you see. It's not very beneficial actually, because Tuku operates more on I want more attacks, more damage, slice the enemy faster. So Samurai and Sin is one of the good selections. Now, that doesn't mean you cannot play around with your Sigil just like I do. I've added Judgment. I've noticed that Judgment does help in increasing the damage because it holds the attribute of attack plus 20%. Of course, if you're gonna go with the I want it by the book, you should actually add Sin. That's why I keep 2 of these lovely ones. And you can pretty much just exchange back and forth based on what you want, but Sin is actually the accurate one. So Sin actually should give an increase for the broken armor. You see that? Increase armor penetration. Armor penetration is exactly similar to the broken armor. It's not gonna add to the attribute of broken armor, but it reacts and acts similarly. Okay, let's actually put back what we exchanged to actually just show the difference. And every one of these sigils holds attributes in it. So this one, for instance, has critical plus 10%, which means it will increase the critical by 10%, 10 digits, 10. And then the next one has critical damage resistance by 10%. So the difference would be if you remove one. Let's look at critical damage resistance. Critical damage what? Resistance. It's at 84. Let's add it back. Okay, let's have a look at critical damage resistance. Now, critical damage resistance is at 94. Again, for showcasing. Critical damage resistance 84, and then we add it directly. And you can also see the overall power increase, switch and back. Critical damage resistance 94. So one way of manipulating actually the attributes is from the sigil pretty much. Next, of course, is the samurai sigil. The best selections that you can go for is hopefully ones that have speed and attack. Speed and attack as much as you can, and then blocking and damage immunity. That's kind of some of the best selections you can do. And it does help by increasing her speed and increasing the attack, which is exactly what you want in battle. Now moving on from the sigil, and we already mentioned the different types that can be used and the preference. The preference is going to be Samurai, Sin, and we don't prefer using Inflame or Berserk, the two on the bottom. Next is the relics. Now when it comes to the relics, it's a simplified process of collect the relics, 9 relics, and then upgrade the relics to T1. The relics on its own stands alone in adding a bonus of attributes: critical damage, damage immunity, armor, HP, and attack. Of course, you need to upgrade the level itself of the relics. If you're looking at someone who doesn't have that yet, each time you upgrade the 9 relics by 10 levels, so it's going to be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, you actually unlock one of the master levels, the relic master level. So each time equals 1% additional HP and attack. So as soon as we reach 50 here, it's going to unlock master enhancement level number 5, which will give HP 5% and attack 5%. Okay, so the relics do play an important role, and they actually give attributes. If you read this for once, Deadly Pursuit, okay? As soon as you have 3 relics, and let's actually remove some of the relics to showcase something of the difference. As soon as you have just 3 relics, you unlock, and you can see the text highlighted, Deadly Pursuit. Deadly Pursuit increases the damage of basic attack and pursuit to 160% of damage. So let's actually have a showcasing of, let's do a battle with the relics and without the relics. Of course, the relics, we dropped to 13 million. With the relics, we're close to 18, 19-ish. So let's go and actually watch Toko without the relics and with the relics. Okay, so for this fight, we're gonna go with 37-37. Why specifically? Because they're strong enough so we can actually notice a difference with Toko with the relics and without the relics. So now we're looking at 4-5 million per attack. Okay, so now we can just adjust that she can do 4-5 million without the relics. Now we're going to be adding all the relics, or actually before adding all of it, we're just gonna add the first 3. So we can witness the Deadly Pursuit increase, which is the first attribute you gain by having 3 relics. Deadly Pursuit. So Deadly Pursuit should increase her attack, and that is exactly what you want in the game. So let's go directly to 37-37 and watch. Can she do more damage, more than 4-5 million per attack? Let's see. Okay, so now she's at 7, 10, 8, and 9, and fluctuating between the numbers. So yeah, it does confirm that by having only 3 relics and master enhancement level 6, which is HP and attack plus 6 and plus 6, and the relics themselves are T1, okay, they're just standalone almost 2 million. That's a high amount actually. So 3 relics can do this wonder. Now if we add more relics, we're talking about the full set, the 9 relics, which will actually unlock the second attribute, which is Pursuit. So you have Deadly Pursuit, and then after it directly you have Pursuit. Unlocking it will give you all that beautiful shiny text now, which gives you the core skill of 4, Pursuit level 4. So it increases the chance of Pursuit, so that's something you want, and follow up Pursuit by number of attacks. And pretty much it will just give you that and an increase in damage. Increase in damage and an increase in triggering Pursuit. Okay, let's go into battle and watch the difference with 9 relics directly at T1 in comparison to 3 relics and in comparison to 0 relics. Okay, so as you can see, she's become more savage. She almost took out 2 of the enemy. She also used her skill in round number 1, and she's doing much better by that increase just by the relics. So yeah, definitely it did make a difference in battle. Even if you look at the damage, it's completely better when she's the one only doing that high amount of damage, just by actually adding the relics. So 9 relics is essential to have, and upgrading it to T1 and actually taking the master enhancement relic to level 6. Now moving on from the relics, you still have a little bit of things when it comes to building a hero. the gems. And of course, you will notice there is so many mistakes in the gems. So we're gonna be mentioning the gems that you should select when it comes to Toko. Okay, so the number of gems actually are a couple, interestingly. One of them is the cat's eye. So we're looking here at additional attributes of attack, critical damage resistance, and critical resistance. So this is one of the good gems you can actually add to Tuku. The next one is going to be this one. On the opposite side, it adds HP, it doesn't add attack. It adds critical and critical damage resistance. And then the next one will be the Bloodstone. It adds critical damage and critical damage resistance. If you're noticing something between the three, critical damage resistance, and then critical damage resistance, critical resistance, and then the next one is critical damage resistance, and then the next one is going to be critical damage resistance. You will notice that we always try to give Tuku critical damage resistance and other attributes that match her needs. Of course, the cat's eye is one of the best that matches both. And then this one, and then you have the bloodstone, critical damage resistance. And also you have, let's see if I have any one of them. And this one also in terms of the increase of HP, attack, and critical resistance. So our main focus, aside there are other gems, but we're focusing on the ones that at least have. Of course, I'll add at the end of the video all these details. We're focusing on the critical damage resistance, and attack mainly, which you can see here in the gem selection. Now, this one has critical and critical damage resistance, critical damage resistance, critical damage resistance and critical resistance, critical damage resistance and critical resistance, and critical damage and critical damage resistance. Now, why did I make that specific selection? First, because she benefits from these attributes the most. Second, it increases my critical and critical damage resistance. That's why you see the numbers have improved by critical at 89.9, critical damage, still a work in progress, 58.5. Critical damage resistance is finally better, 94%. So, if we remove one of these or remove all of them, let's watch the tragedy unfold by removing them. So the critical went down to 79.9, the critical damage 48.5, the critical damage resistance took a massive plummeting to 66%, and so on. So now we can see that the gems do make a difference, and of course upgrading the gems across the stages until level 120 or at least 90, it increases the HP and the attack by a percentage. What will that do? It will benefit you in battle because you have more HP and more attack. Now if you click directly like that and watch that beautiful animation, you can pretty much select also a skill in battle. Before we go into the skill in battle, let's look again and observe all the different things we can see. So the Stigmata Enhancement Master is similar to the Relics Enhancement Master. After you reach a specific level of upgrade, it gives you an increase or a boost in HP or attack. Same scenario, the only difference is at level 150 you get damage immunity plus 6%. Now to get that, you kind of need to upgrade all the relics and keep leveling them up. Overall, based on all the relics we have, you can see that it gives us an overall increase of overall power by 2 million and a fraction, close to 3 million. Now, when it comes to skill damage, you have three. The first one you actually unlock after you have all gems and almost at 4 stars, all of them, or 5. And it gives you three options. Either Silent Approach, which increases the damage immunity, and then Charge Penetration and Whirlwind Assault. So the Whirlwind Assault at the start of the round increased critical damage by 30%. You would use that if you want a speedy attack and an increase in damage only in the first round. Second one, if you're going after a longer damage, and it kind of depends, you can mix and match, try to use this or this. If you just want to increase the damage, hopefully it will happen. Now, the difference is the Charge Penetration can slow the pursuit and follow-up pursuit a little bit in battle, in comparison to the whirlwind assault. And if you compare it to the silent approach is when you're in a battle and the enemy is stronger than you, and you will be taken out faster, and you need just that extra boost of I can survive a little bit longer. It's not going to give you HP, it's just going to reduce the damage a little bit in the battle. Now, silent approach is when you want to survive a little bit past the first and the second round, it can help. Charge penetration if you're going for a long one and you're just hoping to increase the armor penetration, and it will only last one round anyway. And the last one is I just want to increase some of the damage easier. So these are the three, and you never know which one can actually benefit you in battle, so you might want to mix and match depending on the battle itself. And they do not always function the way I asked, because Toko is unpredictable in the pursuit and follow-up pursuit. Now the next one is when you have 6 5-star gems. What does that mean? It means each one of these gems has been upgraded to star level 5, like this one. 5 stars you can see here. So that one is much nicer. When dealing damage, for every 10% drop in the target's HP, increases the damage dealt at the enemy, the one you're attacking, by 8%. Up to 40% increases allowed. Now, the benefit of having Fatal Strike is the potential to increase the damage massively. The potential if you're against a boss or against player versus enemy, that the damage can be increased. Of course, you still will need to have time and different heroes to boost Tuku's damage, but it can really make a difference. Next one, Shield Breaker, increase damage dealt against enemies carrying a shield. So this one is when you're going up against a team that has the Emperor, for instance, or Afra or Thinker, some type of hero, or Rex, even Mecha Rex, some type of hero that has a shield or has Phantom or something, and in the battle you just want an increase of damage against that specific hero because he's a number one and you're trying to take him out, or he's somewhere in the back line and you just want something to give you an extra boost of damage against that specific hero. This is a good selection. Next one, the Soulbind. At the start of the battle, absorbs 4% Sunder, and Sunder operates just like broken armor, and damage immunity, which will actually reduce your damage from 2 random enemies, lasting 3 rounds. Soulbind will be triggered again when an enemy dies. So what Soulbind actually does is just leech off the enemy a little bit of broken armor, which helps you to actually attack them easier, causing an increase in damage. And when they attack you, you take less damage in battle. If you want to actually look at broken armor and damage immunity from that perspective, simply it will help in increasing your attack and help in reducing some of the damage you take, and it will last for the first 3 rounds, and after that you need to kill an enemy and then it will restart again. So the 3 attributes are very nice, very special. And at 6 stars, this is more for the player versus player, as you can see, so we're not gonna really dive into depth about it, but it is a way if you're interested in ranking in player versus player, whether it's the daily or the Legend Arena, sorry. Simply it will give you more attack and more HP and more force, very simply, and the selection relies fully on the enemy you're going up against. So gaining 10 force and 10 force resistance and 20 effective resistance, that can help you pretty much in causing more damage, more attack, taking less damage because of how force and force resistance works. And at the same time, the effective resistance can help maybe in you not getting stunned easier, something like that. Next is going to be the same thing, but it will give you HP. And the last one is going to help you in reducing the damage reduction. So pretty much the 3 core skills or the 3 attributes gained by the gym are essential because they can really make a difference, especially if you're interested in ranking up against player versus player. So overall, you can see there is many things that Toko can benefit from, whether it's the awakened skill, whether it's the sigil, whether it's the equipment, the T2, the exclusive, and so on. Now moving on to the next thing, which is the talents. When it comes to Toko, the general talents is 1, 2, 2, 1, which is the simplified version of the selection of hero talents, and pretty much number one is to increase the damage against a specific subfaction of heroes. The second one is to increase the damage if the enemy has higher HP than you. The third one is part of the damage you cause after 2 rounds, the enemy will take that part again automatically every 2 rounds. Okay, as you can see. And the last one is to increase your damage in by its own each round, pretty much. So 1 2 2 1 is a good selection. Another selection, of course, is 1 2 2 2. Why 2 2 2 and the 2 at the end? Rush offense helps Tuku in giving her a chance of a triggering of a percentage that can help her to attack again. She attacks again, she does more damage, that last hit kills the enemy, voila, you won. So it functions similar to Pursuit and Follow-Up Pursuit, but only by a percentage, and it's applicable for any hero actually. Next will be if you're going up against Megan supporter sub-faction heroes, then you would select 2 regardless of the following of the normal by the book direction or not. You would select number 2 because you're going up against Megan supporters more, or you're having an issue with a specific hero that's a Meg. And Meg heroes, for instance, voila, she is a Meg hero. So that move can benefit if you want to cause more damage towards the Queen of Desert or towards Anna, for instance. Titan Killer is very simplified depending on what you're looking for. If the enemy has higher HP than you, it will help in increasing your damage. Now, if you actually just want a percentage of ability to launch an extra attack that is buffed up in percentage, when the enemy, their HP is lower than half the bar, half 50%, an additional attack will automatically be triggered, like the skill attack, for instance, something similar like that, which will give that extra boost that can